Yo, 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 what is up, party people, omnibus collectors, comic book fans, and crazy people who want to hang out here with us on Omnibros Live? I'm Gabe. Over there, over that away, is my boy Lou.
Howdy.
We're talking John Cassaday today, everybody. We're going to have a little chat. You know, like our boy NFL dude has already said straight off the bat, what a sad year we're hitting so far in 2024 of losing some massive, massive, massive legends.
Yeah.
Lou, tell everybody what's up.
What's up, guys? It is the Wednesday show once again. So Gabe and I are here with you tonight. I am drinking tonight a little bit of Mama Juana, which is Dominican spice rum. It is absolutely delicious. Huh?
I thought you said marijuana.
No. I am not partaking in that tonight. I'm drinking Mama Juana tonight, which is Dominican spice rum. It's absolutely delicious, and it's a great little rum for those of you out there that partake. That is wonderful for this time of the year. It's got really good cinnamon taste, so it leans into the fall season that we're heading towards just wonderfully. So that's what I'm partaking in. Other than that, I'm happy, man. I'm here. I'm ready to talk some John Cassaday, which we sadly lost this past week. But where can they find some John Cassaday books, man?
There's only one place that we would recommend if you want to remember, experience for the first time, anything to do with John Cassaday or any of your favorite creators. There's one go-to spot for that, and that is InStockTrades.com, everybody. That is right. What? InStockTrades.com, where you can find all your omnibuses, collected editions, hardcovers, manga, little treasury editions, those DC compact books that are super cool. All of those at InStockTrades.com at amazing discounts. 30%, 40%, 50%, sometimes even more. So check out the red tag sales on InStockTrades.com. If you spend $50 or more in the US, which is super simple to do, that's a omnibus, couple little books, you're good to go.
Yep.
You get free shipping, everybody. That's an extra added value. For just $50 that you spend, you get free shipping. And with that free shipping, you get awesome, amazing, top of the line, industry standard, I feel, for packing and shipping. Great box, great packing material on the inside, arrives to you all nice and cozy and happy on your doorstep. InStockTrades.com, who also allows us to give out a $50 gift card once a month to one lucky viewer. That could be you, that could be you, that could be you. Yep. Maybe not you, but you too. And that's for everybody that watches the show. It's eligible. Whether you're in the United States, Canada, anywhere across the world, you're eligible for a $50 gift card. All you need to do is watch our episodes, because we give it away on the low. Like, we don't advertise it. We don't make a big post about it. We do it on a random episode. So you need to make sure that you like, subscribe, share, all that stuff, so that you hit that little bell icon that goes ding, 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 ding. So a new episode comes up, you watch it. Maybe that's the episode we give away the gift card. It's just a random name generator or a random name picker, like your nose, that picks it out for us. So everything's straight, narrow, good to go with that. InStockTrades.com. Thank you for the gift cards. Thank you for the awesome customer service. Make sure you guys check them out. Bam. Let's see. Can we look at John Cassaday stuff on there? Let's see.
Wonderful stuff, man. Yeah. So John Cassaday, for those of you that aren't in the know, I'll just kind of lead into it, because this is going to be a pretty quick episode today. Gabe and I'm going to check out soon because it's been a long day at work. John Cassaday, for those of you that aren't in the know, was a very famous and at one point even, I would argue, prolific artist. And unfortunately, over the past week, he passed away. They haven't, I believe, released the reason why, but I think it's always been a thing that it was speculated that at least in the industry, it was kind of a thing where it was known but not known that he was going through some health issues for the last few years, right? It was always a rumor, I think.
From what I've seen on Bleeding Cool,
Yeah.
he was rushed to the ICU.
Mm.
I believe, and I hate just saying like, oh, I heard this, kind of thing without being 100% sure. So take it with a grain of salt.
Right.
Billy Tucci said it was a heart attack.
Oh, Jesus. So young, too, dude.
So, yes, he was 52 years old, which is 6 years older than me, which is, that is nothing,
Nothing.
6 years is a blink, especially when you got kids. 6 years is literally tomorrow.
Right.
So it's a tragic in the idea of him being so young.
Yep.
It's a tragic event whenever we lose an artist. Okay, because we lose not only who the person is, we lose whatever artwork, creations, anything else that they could have provided the world at that time or in the future. Right? That's all gone. There's no more John Cassaday artwork that's going to come out. That's new. I mean, as sure as you get all these reprints like I have here. This is InStockTrades.com. Star Wars, Planetary. I'll be talking a little bit about Planetary tonight for sure.
Right.
But that's where, to me, a lot of the major travesties and really kind of unfortunate sadness really does come in, is that you lose creativity on this earth. We are a little less creative, little less have little less art, little less love in the world without any kind of artist being around with us. So losing that kind of stuff, I think, affects everything all around for sure.
No, I agree. 100% agree. I think, and that's, obviously it's tragic. It's extremely tragic because, it's a person that has a family, whether he was a brother or he had kids. I'm not entirely sure what his family dynamic is, but from that aspect, it's tragic. And not only, like you pointed that out wonderfully. What did we lose, right? That's all. There's always that question of, man, he had so many years left in him, probably had so many great works left in him. What did we lose by him going so young? We wrestled with the same thing. I wrestled with the same situation with Darwin Cook passed away.
Yeah.
Where I went, man, he had so many great years left in him, and his work was so friggin' amazing. What did we lose? Because we knew that there were certain projects that he had in the works when he passed away. And it always, there's always that what if factor, right? Especially when they pass away so young. This isn't a case of like Stan Lee or something like that, where they passed away in their twilight years or anything like that, or Neil Adams. This is a case where 52 is way too young, right. Absolutely way too young for somebody like this. And, again, without really knowing anything in regards to the man's health, because we don't, and I'm not assuming anything on the man's health. Get yourself checked out, people. Like, really get yourself checked out. Get on a diet, clean up. For those of you out there that haven't, clean up some of the bad habits out there and stuff like that. That was my thing the past year. Because it can make a world of difference. And this is completely aside from what happened to John, because we don't know John's medical history stuff. But just general advice.
When somebody dies that young, that's the first thing that really comes to mind. Like my friend Tim Tebow from Lords of the Long Box, who
I remember that.
We did a live show. Yep. Right after the live show, he had a heart attack and died. All right. Yeah. Anytime you lose a friend, anytime you lose somebody that you have any kind of ancillary connection to, anybody that's close to your age that dies, you're like, crap. Like, okay, heart attack is different if it was like, car accident, things of that sort, acts of God or happenstances, right? But when it's like a medical health issue that takes somebody out, 52 to people our age is, again, that's spitting distance to us. Yeah. Just a little older than that, he passed that. Yeah. There's some people who are younger than us who might think, 52 is kind of, that's an old guy. Sure. But 52 is He's not an elderly person. That's not 91 like Stan Lee was, 91, 92, right? Maybe older. You really start going, okay, there's some health things going on. How am I doing? You do start kind of reflecting on yourself a little bit. And that's important. Absolutely.
Absolutely. I think today we're going to honor him a little bit by kind of pointing out some of his works. And I think one of the best things that we could do is looking back on the guy's work and realizing how when John Cassaday first blew up on the scene, his art was incredible. Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. We have mentioned it on the show before that in the last few years we felt the art has suffered a little bit, but that's just what happened. But at his height, and I'm talking about the days of when he was doing Planetary and Astonishing X-Men, the guy's art was incredible. Could not keep a monthly schedule to save his life, but his art was still incredible nonetheless.
Well, I will say with Planetary, that monthly schedule was not his fault. That's Warren Ellis. Dude, like, what was it? The from the penultimate issue to the last issue. So the last issue to the actual last issue was like I'm gonna say a 5-year gap. It was, I don't know the exact numbers, excuse me, but it was years of a gap. And a lot of and most of the series was like that too for a bit of time, where you would get maybe one a year, one every 2 years. Planetary was on a crazy schedule. I think he did well with Astonishing X-Men. I'll look it up, but I'm pretty sure that was a fairly monthly scheduled book.
Right. And that's kind of the price you pay for some of these artists that are like this. I think about it like a James Stokoe. James Stokoe, who you and I are big fans of, would not be able to keep a monthly schedule with his art style. It's just, it wouldn't happen. If you were to get him on a book, you would have to go, okay, you're going to get about 3 months worth out of me, and then I'm going to have to take about 2 months off, and then you may get another 3 to 2 months work out of me.
Well, that's with Saga, right? With Fiona Staple, right? She does 6 months of books, then they take like 6 months off or whatever,
Right. Yeah. And I think the end result for a lot of the stuff at the time, especially Astonishing X-Men and Planetary, was worth it. And when you look at Planetary, I like that William Lee points it out in the chat. Planetary, his art evolved a lot. Look at some of those early issues compared to some of the stuff at the end. It's night and day. It is night and day how good he got.
I brought up my Omnibus just because of that. This is because, like William Lee mentioned in the chat, this is the book that I 100% feel, if you want to go through a career of an artist, it's in this book, because it took so long to come out, right? It did take a long time to come out. So you do see a major evolution of an artist, which is what's exciting about this. This is the one book, the one prime example where you can see an evolution of an artist.
Right.
Because most books, if they have a run of a year or a run of 2 years, how often does that happen anymore? Yeah. They are fairly, you might see them improve, maybe some storytelling, things like that. But with this book taking so long to come out, you absolutely see like a change of his artwork. You see him as a up and coming artist that you see there to what you get here in a completely different light as a superstar artist. This is one of the most fantastic things about Planetary, is you get to see him. you get an entire career in one book, where he's a up and comer, rough around the edges, still finding his way, to Mr. Superstar comic book artist with rock star looks, kicking ass. It's all, you don't get that in Fantastic Four. You don't get that in a Batman book with an artist. Like, it's like, okay, here's where you get from beginning to end. It's basically the same. This is 2, if not 3 different completely artists, it feels like, in this book.
Yeah. This is very much a case where you look at those early issues and you go, and you fast forward and you look at some of the later issues and you think, this is not the same guy. There's just no way that the level of progression of improvement is insane. It really is. But you also got to think about the context of Planetary and how fucking long it took to get the damn book done.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the thing where John Cassaday was sitting on his laurels just going, okay, I'm just gonna wait for Warren Ellis to kind of eventually give me more scripts. He was getting better. And it shows. It shows on the page when an artist gets better with time as it goes on. He got more detailed. He got just anatomy-wise got better. His panels just look so good. I would argue even today, by today's standards, those pages in Astonishing X-Men and those pages in Planetary, and I'm highlighting those two books because those are the ones that a lot of people know about, are some of the best modern day comic book art that we've seen. Especially some of his work in Astonishing X-Men, which I think is gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. I mean, if we could pull up some panels on that, man. Oh my God. It's beautiful.
I'm looking for one in particular, but here's my Google page. I was already ahead of you looking stuff up, bro. Like, again, this is him as a superstar. He was doing this in between, the year pauses of Planetary,
Mm-hmm.
So there is some absolute just amazing stuff here. I'm just going to do full page here.
Was this in between Planetary that he was doing this?
He was doing this at the same time.
Okay.
So Planetary was 27 issues. 27 issues. Came out between 1999 and 2009. Took 10 years, 27 issues to come out. So in between that was Astonishing X-Men stuff.
Right.
So there would be times where it's like, oh, Astonishing X-Men. Oh, and Planetary. Oh, how cool is this? Right? So you got that sometimes. So
because Astonishing X-Men was what? It's only 20-something issues? It's not a long series, right?
Okay, so here's the one I was trying to pull up here. Here's one on Astonishing X-Men, I think is 20 issues. I'll double check to be sure. But it's about 20 issues, I think. So let's see here. Come on, Reddit. How do I make this bigger? There we go. This is the panel I wanted. Oh, let me. How do I bring it back up here? Share this panel instead. This is the one I was looking for.
Okay.
Spoiler alert if you haven't read Astonishing X-Men, but this is the panel. This is the page, I should say, that triggers, even now when I look at it, triggers an emotional response. Like I get the feels, I get the tingles with this page. This is the page where Kitty Pryde finds out that Colossus is still alive. And that bottom, these two panels, the second and the fourth panel, the look on her face, that's John Cassaday at his best. Yeah. This is entirely textless, no words, no speech bubbles, no captions. It's all on the page. This is, you can see just her heartbreak. You could see her love. I don't know what Josh Whedon wrote. I don't know what his writing style is. I don't know if it's like full script or if it's Marvel style or whatever. Whatever that dude wrote on the page is nothing compared to what we see John Cassaday produce on that page. Yeah. That describes everything. Like, there's no way the emotions I felt when I read this, when it was coming out, would have been anywhere the same if I would have just read it as like a book or a script. Like this is top-notch John Cassaday.
I agree. No, I agree. Yeah.
But I mean, we can go look at some more pages and stuff of his. But man, oop.
Now, I know the art. So John Cassaday's art in the last few years has been subject to a bit of scrutiny because some people go, "Oh man, it didn't hit the same highs as some of the stuff before," and who knows what was going on behind the scenes as far as that. But man, you got to take the good with some of the rougher parts, right? And the good, I would argue that the good of John Cassaday far outweighs the bad and the rougher parts of his catalog and his history.
It's a thing where everything changes with people. Art style has changed. We've seen his art style change before and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But same with like, I don't really fall down the rabbit hole too much, but same with like Frank Miller, same with John Cassaday, same with whomever. What you might not like, whatever's changed, does not take away, again, from that Astonishing X-Men panel. Everything is done in Astonishing X-Men. Everything is done in Planetary, his Captain America run. Like he's earned more credit. He could have just smeared stuff on the page, and he has more than enough credit that would never be taken away from him. Like, this cannot be taken away from him.
Yeah.
And you know what? I said it in our own chat. We've talked bad about his artwork recently. Me and you, and I stand by it. Stand by it. But again, I'll never discredit his entire career or his art or anything else that he's done previously. I stand by it. I said what I said. It's fair. You're allowed to critique. You're allowed. We're talking about a man who passed away. We've never talked bad about him as a person. Okay.
Bingo.
Art style, work ethic, things like that, different story. But that does not make or break him as a person. But his artwork here that we're looking at is what I hope us, who are not his family, who are not his loved ones, who any of that stuff, this is what I choose to remember him for.
Right. And this is just in general, this has been a bit of a rough year for massive talents as far as creatives. We lost, somebody posted in the chat, Akira Toriyama. We lost Ed Piskor, and now John Cassaday. It's been a bit of a bumpy year as far as wonderful, talented people. And a lot of these guys, all young, all way too damn young.
Yeah. How old was Akira Toriyama? 50s, 60s? No, 70s?
In his 60s, getting close to that 70.
Okay, that's still young. That's still like, he's the kind of guy that deserves to live to like 90,000, right?
Toriyama was 68. He was 68 when he passed.
Right. Still a massive loss, and still too young with so much work to go ahead for him, Yeah.
William Lee says, God, last year in New York Comic Con, I passed on getting a sketch for $800. I regret it. Oh, I'm sorry, man.
$800 is $800.
It's a steep price. But and that's the thing with a lot of these, and the thing is, Cassaday wasn't even old. A lot of these guys, though, sometimes, not always, but sometimes you might want to pull the trigger on if you really want a sketch or if you really want something nice done. Maybe sometimes you got to pull the trigger on it because you just never know. That people were arguing Jim Lee's prices a few weeks ago, and I'm like, dude, it's Jim Lee. He's young, but he's not getting younger, right? And he hasn't opened commissions up for years. If you want it and you got this and you got the scratch, maybe pony up. You never know.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's something that you pass on. You never get the chance of it ever again, and that's one thing we've always talked about here on the show. Like, this Captain America is beautiful here.
I love it. Yeah.
When you go to conventions, there's store signings in your area, whatever the case might be. Even if they're young, take your option, take your chance, thank them for their work, shake their hand, get an autograph, whatever the case might be. I've passed on not talking to people at conventions, like Micro Ringo, and then a couple years later he's dead. Right? Things happen. Yep. So take the opportunities to meet these folks when you get the chance, for sure.
William Lee asks, where is this Captain America run collected?
That's a good question. I'm not sure if and where.
I'm not sure.
I'm trying to look it up. Oh, the Marvel Knights Captain America? It says Marvel Knights Captain America. So that might be, maybe it's on In Stock Trades. Always take a look.
NFL Dude says there was a complete collection for the series a couple of years back that's probably out of print. I'm sure it'll hit an epic sometime soon.
I mean, yeah, you would think now, kind of like when George Perez was towards the end of things, that they would you're going to start seeing some more reproduction of his artwork, I'm just looking at stock trades.
Maybe we'll get an art book in a few years. One of those artist editions?
Maybe.
Did he have an artist edition out?
Not that I know of, no.
Oh, man, I would. Oh.
Most artist editions were like, older stuff that had word bubbles on the pages and stuff like that, Yeah, I don't see it on in-stock trades. Yeah, we're going to have to kind of hunt that down a little bit. All right. There's a Marvel Knights trade of his run. Yeah, a complete collection. So, did you ever meet John Cassaday?
No, I never got a chance to meet him. I just through happenstance or what have you. I never met him at a con or anything like that. You?
I do have a John Cassaday story.
Okay.
I did meet him at San Diego Comic-Con early 2000s, 2003, maybe. I took a piss next to him in the bathroom.
What?
Yeah, was in the bathroom, went to the stall, or not the stall, excuse me, the urinal. The dude next to me, long, semi, shoulder length hair dude. John Cassaday. We took a whiz next to each other, washed our hands, walked out. I didn't want to talk to him while we were, doing what you got to do. But as soon as we left the bathroom, I was like, "Hey, John Cassaday, I love your artwork. Thank you for Planetary. I'm not sure if Astonishing X-Men was out yet or whatever. Me and him were both. I know I was drunk, so I don't remember quite the conversation. But I do remember walking down the stairs with him and chatting him up and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But that's my John Cassaday stories. I took a whiz next to him at San Diego.
Some of your best moments meeting comic book creators and artists usually start with "I was drunk."
Yeah,
when that happened,
especially at conventions, especially in my 20s, I was always wasted off my ass at conventions. Yeah.
Oh, and that's another thing, man. The convention scene has kind of changed from them, hasn't it?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, in the sense that it's kind of settled down now, right? It's a different vibe, I think, than from the earlier days, to a certain extent. I don't know.
Yeah. What I see at conventions is a lot more like, "Hey, look at my exclusives I got." Where it used to be they would just sit there at the table, and just sign autographs all day and do sketches real fast and things like that. A lot of people, it's more of a business now. Hey, nice to meet you. Hey, look at this other table. I got 3 tables, and it's all exclusives that you can buy for $45 or whatever. That seems to be a little bit more businessy, selly stuff these days, as opposed to like, I'm here to draw and do signings kind of thing. But either way.
Yeah, I kind of noticed. So I went to this past summer. I took my youngest to her first con, and it was my first con in 5 years. I went to Florida SuperCon with her. We had a good time, but it's definitely shifted as far as it. I don't know. There was less and less comics there this time. There was more.
Yeah, that's definitely a fact of conventions.
Okay. Yeah, there was definitely not necessarily even more manga. It was just mostly vendors. It was almost all vendors selling whatever thing that they could churn out to sell. I'm like, where are the comic book shops here? And there was probably 2 to 4 comic book exclusively just that shops. And then the rest was all just, hey, come buy these shirts. Hey, come buy these hats. Come buy, the stuffed animals and things like that. Which is, hey, man, that's cool. You're definitely targeting a market. And I'm thinking, fuck, man. Even I remember when you came down to MegaCon, a few years ago, you could find a good chunk of vendors that were still selling comics and were still selling collected editions. It was crickets. Maybe it's just a different scene down here versus Orlando. I'm not entirely sure, but it was kind of crickets down here as far as that.
Plus, I mean, I know that I think it was that weekend there was like 3 or 4 big cons. Like I think there was one like in Jersey, and there was another like in Oakland or something like that. So there's when you get 3 conventions in the same weekend, creators and dealers, they obviously can't be in 3 places at once. So they kind of go, wherever they can, probably what's closer to them, whoever's giving them the more, perks to go. Hey, we'll pay for your airfare and a hotel. But in general, like most conventions that I've gone to, even recently, it's hey, look, there's a booth here of a guy selling swords. There's a booth here of somebody selling, sneakers, or a lot of prints, like a lot of just guys kind of just downloading images off the internet and printing them up. It feels like kind of thing. Comic book, not so many comic booths. In terms of like back issue booths, like single issues, it's a lot of hey, I have an exclusive. Hey, I have an exclusive. Hey, I have an exclusive. It's a lot of that, as opposed to like, here's 30 long boxes for you to dig through, kind of thing. And that's what I want to. Those are the shows that I kind of try to focus on, the smaller ones where it's legitimately dealers. I don't care about pops. I don't care about toys. I don't care about whatever tchotchke ephemera there is for comic book stuff.
Yeah,
I want comics.
Yeah, and maybe it's just I'm the old guy now at the con to a certain extent, and my daughter loved it, so that was really the important thing. It was more taking her to it, and she had a great time. She got a bunch of cool stuff signed and everything like that. She met a bunch of cool people, so Perfect. She loved it. That was more of what I was going there for. Yeah, but it was just an observation of when I was there, going, this is different. There's a different feel to it. There's a different vibe to it. It feels like it's skewed more, maybe younger. Or maybe I'm just the old guy now. Now that's the thing that happened, right? I don't know, but it was still fun. At the end of the day, it was still a lot of fun. And we plan to go. We plan to go next year when they bring it back. But
perfect.
But it got me the bug. What I want to bring this up to you because you've been around the con scene for a while. I wonder. There are guys that do the tour, right? Where they go the summertime, maybe even into the fall time, where they do the tour of a bunch of different cons across the country and they haul all this stuff and everything like that. Is that even a way to make a reasonable living for somebody? To doing that tour across the country with all this stuff and trying to sell? Really? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they wouldn't do it if it wasn't.
Okay.
It's not cheap. It's not. Yeah. It's not like, hey, I'm gonna go to this convention in Orlando and be able to and make it like a vacation. I'm gonna go see all the sites and I'm gonna go do this, I'm gonna do that. It's not like that. It's you're stuck behind a booth inside of a convention center where if you don't make your nut, it's a disaster, right? Yeah. It's like, okay, well, this sucks. I'm not selling. Maybe instead I'm gonna have to buy. Maybe if I'm not selling, nobody's really selling. Maybe I could get some deals on collections and things like that. So they wouldn't do it if they weren't making, the ends meet. I know people that's how they support their family. That's how they support their lifestyle. Guys that just go, it's just a van that they take cross country, I would love to do that. I think that would be totally badass and fun and exciting to do, kind of thing.
That's, I mean, yeah, but at the same time, it sounds like it'd be a kind of a bit of a rough life where, you're constantly traveling from one place to the next. And you're
just eating junk food, you're just eating, convention food, maybe you got to pay a guy to be there with you so you can go to the bathroom and leave your booth, setting up. Some conventions like San Diego, everything has to be set up like your booth. All of it has to be set up by, what do they call it? Like the union. Like they have to do it, kind of thing. So it can be rough, but it's if you have the drive and the hustle to do it, you can definitely make it work. It's definitely a viable.
Yeah. I mean, hey, for some people, that's the way to live, right? They don't want to do the 9 to 5. They hate the 9 to 5, so they would rather do something like that, which has got to be. it's a tough one, but it's got to also be a really interesting way to live. That's what I was thinking. I was like, man, you get to see the country, you get to interact with a lot of people. You run the risk of taking a loss because you got to pay for gas, you got to pay for the spot that you're in because the convention's got to get their nut too, right? You got to pay for your place there. And I've certainly seen my fair share of, oh man, this dude, yeah, he's doing the tours right now, and oh, he comes back around every year, and now you just don't see that guy anymore because for whatever reason, right?
And some people just do it on the weekends. They got regular jobs, and then on the weekends, hey, I'm gonna hit this convention, I'm gonna hit that convention, Or some people, that's all they do. I know people like that. That's their job, that's their life, that's their business.
Yeah, I kind of also wonder about some of these celebrities because if you're one of those fortunate ones that you get that franchise, even if you're a minor bit character in it, you do the tour circuit, right? You can do the con circuit, like, oh yeah, I'll do a celebrity show up or whatever it is, and I was celebrity number 13 in this geek property show, or I was in 4 episodes of Doctor Who. Come sign and take a photo of me where you pay $50 to meet me or something like that. Right. And you can make a living doing that. And good for you if you can.
I mean, some of those actors that aren't like in big movies anymore, it used to be kind of frowned upon to do like the convention circuit. But now it's like, no, like you need to do it. Like, Michael Rosenbaum, the guy that played Lex Luthor in Smallville. I listen to his podcast every so often. He talks about it. Like, it used to be kind of like a, that's what people did who don't make it in business anymore. If you're not viable anymore,
washed up.
But now, washed up. But now it's like, no, like, it's a whole thing. Like they do panels, they do a whole thing. It's money, one way or the other. It's you get to meet people, you get to meet your fans, you get some attention. It's still, some of these horror actors, they go to these horror conventions.
Oh, yeah.
Star Trek conventions, Star Wars conventions, like all that stuff. Like, that's all, like, it's all fun and good to them these days. It's an
yeah. Dude, listen, I would love to meet Kane Hodder. Kane Hodder played Jason in several of the Friday the 13th movies. And he's my favorite rendition of the character. Kane Hodder is just fucking huge. I'd love to meet him. Brad Dourif. I would love to meet Brad Dourif, the voice of Chucky. So the convention scene has changed in that sense, where a lot of these guys now are just making bank showing up for this, especially in the horror conventions.
Yeah.
Because for horror fans, we tend to be more forgiving as far as the content that we watch and enjoy. Certainly, the rise of quote unquote elevated horror has been a thing the last few years, but hey, I'm still a sucker for the Leprechaun films. Okay, right. They're not great, they're horrible, but goddamn, I will watch a Leprechaun film. Same thing with Sleepaway Camp. Sleepaway Camp, terrible stuff, and one of the most infamous endings in a film. I still enjoy them for what they are. So, yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool, kind of seeing the evolution of cons in the last few years and seeing what they've changed into. Because the con thing, when you and I were growing up, right? The con thing was kind of seen as like, oh, it's like a bunch of nerds hanging out, Star Trek fans. There was that stigma to it. Now I freaking see cholos, and I see these, just these jacked bodybuilder type dudes that you would never expect to see be into this shit show up to cons and things like that. And it's interesting to see the evolution.
Yeah. The first, like, I used to go to this convention in LA.
Yeah.
And it was held in the Shrine Auditorium in downtown LA, which is where they had the Oscars and stuff like that. And there was a convention there like once a month. It was a comic book and sci-fi convention.
Mm-hmm.
And they had, washed up celebrities there sometimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
First one I ever met was Dr. Smith from Lost in Space.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So yeah, that was the thing where it's like, there's just some old actor, just kind of trying to relive his youth or his peak, kind of stuff. And yeah, that it did have that kind of mentality. But these days, like Jason Momoa goes to these cons and do meet and greets, where it's literally just like picture, click, all right, next person, picture, click, next person, right? And they're getting like $200 or whatever, right? Or you're paying $200+ for it, whatever amount they get, who knows? But it's even like NFL dude Elijah Wood, $175 in 2019, and that was all going to heroin.
Yeah. I would personally never do it just because I don't care enough about celebrities where I would go, oh man, I'm gonna pay $200 just to take a photo with you for 2 seconds, and then you tell me, yeah, fuck off. I'm glad. Thank you for your money.
Dude, Stan Lee was like that. He was sitting there in a stool, zoned out Joe Biden style, just taking pictures, and it was like 150. I don't, towards the end, $150 probably, something like that. But yeah, it's literally they just stand there. You kind of go next to them, creepily put your arm around them, click. All right, move on, next person. Click, move on, next person. All right. So Stan Lee used to do that a lot. That was a way for him to kind of make an income as well, or supplement it or whatever for doing absolutely nothing. You're not there to act. You're not there to draw. You're not there. You're just there to be who you are and interact with people. Great, fine, fun, perfect. But you got it.
Yeah, and I think it's a bit of disappointment too for fans. Like, you pay good money. I always appreciate it when the celebrity goes out of their way to actually have, even if it's a small conversation with you and talk with you, and it's like, oh yeah. Robert Englund is apparently famous for, if you can strike up a conversation with him, he'll talk to you at the behest of everybody else in line, but he will actually really talk to you and have a full-on conversation with you and stuff like that. So I appreciate a guy that's there to actually talk and enjoy the fans that are there, and it's paid good money to see you, and you're just not there. All right, here's sign. All right, move on. Come on, I got more people in line that I got to sign.
Yeah. Well, one of the conventions that we were talking about that was like 3-in-1 over the weekend. I think one of them, it was recently. I might be wrong, but I know it was recently. Mark Hamill was doing a con, and it was like $800 for like an autograph with them or a picture or a combination of both, kind of thing, right? Yeah. And people pay for it. It's one of those things where it's like, if you want it, you're gonna have to pay the price to do it. So it's not like a 12-hour line. But people, I'm sure people were bringing up, lightsabers getting signed for $800, whatever the case might be. But it's a viable thing for these people.
Yeah,
which is fine, because if you're, Mark Hamill, where maybe his voice isn't there to do the Joker anymore, or to do voiceovers anymore, or is doesn't want to do camera work in front of cameras anymore or do any acting. Good. Hey man, you can get $800 for an autograph. Yeah. More power to you, homeboy. Make it work.
Yeah, and the same goes for some creators as well. I had a real shitty experience meeting Jason Aaron once. And I don't know if it was Sunday. Maybe he was having a rough day. Maybe he went out drinking the night before. You never know with this type of stuff, right? Because it's the last day of a con. And he just seemed like he didn't want to fucking be there. I was like, oh yeah, how you doing, man? I'm really I really enjoy your work. I'm kind of curious. Like, this was when I was heavy collecting. I'm like, oh man, I was just wondering, like, when do you think, we'll get an omnibus? I forgot what even the book was. And he just looked at me like with the most pissed off look, like, well, I got to finish the book first. I'm like, okay, sorry to ask you that, man. Jesus Christ.
It happens. Sometimes I've had interactions with Rob Liefeld that were perfect and fine, and there's other times where it's like, okay, dude, it's been a long day. I get it. It's in this conversation real quick. Like, no big deal. I get it. And hey, you can't fault these people for it. They're sitting there all day talking to people. Maybe somebody was a dick to them. Maybe they haven't ate in 6 hours.
That's true.
Who knows, right? Like, that would be me. Like, you don't want to see me if I haven't eaten in a long time. Like, it's a different person. Like,
you and I have worked retail, right? We've had our experience in retail. We worked in restaurants and stuff like that. And it's never really the person you give the attitude to that's their fault. It's the person before 9 times out of 10 that pissed you the fuck off. That now you got to take it. You accidentally take it out on the person after.
And I've drank with Jason Aaron at
Yeah.
Morrison Con. I was sitting there with Jonathan Hickman. I brought all my Fantastic Four issues like a jackass, but I did it. And he came down. He sat down with Jonathan Hickman. They had a little bit of conversation, drinking. I was drinking with them. This is about the time when they were doing. It was Wolverine and the X-Men was coming out, so we were just chit chatting about that, chit chatting about Fantastic Four. After the convention, there was like a big party downstairs, where Grant Morrison was completely on drugs, doing poetry and stuff. But it's sometimes even just the atmosphere of the convention can affect that as well. If you go to a good show, you're gonna have a good time. Sometimes you're gonna go to a bad show and it's shit and balls treatment, like you get treated bad. Maybe you lost your luggage, maybe right? So they're people just like you and anybody else watching this show. You have your rough times, you have your good times.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure it was, I'm sure it's never personal or on purpose. I had a bad experience with Pat Lee and I wanted to spit in his face, so it's one of those things.
Yeah, man. It just happens. People are human and stuff like that. I try not to take it personally anymore because I'm like, you might have had a rough day. What day is it on the con or anything like that? Yeah. But it does make it a little bit extra special and nice when a creator does take time and actually strikes up a conversation with you. Capullo was like that with us. He was really cool. Fucking hey, you met Greg. We talked about this before. You met Greg Rucka at MegaCon. And you struck a full, almost 30 to 40 minute conversation with the guy, and nobody was talking to Greg Rucka.
Dude, there was no line. There was this huge line for Scotty Young. I remember because Scotty Young does the thing where he rolls dice, and what numbers you get depends on like if you get a sketch or whatever kind of thing. He had this massive ass line, and Greg Rucka was sitting there by himself. And you were with me, and we were chatting for a little bit, and you left because the conversation kept going. You had other things to do. But I sat with Greg Rucka for the longest time. We just hung out and chilled, talk comic books, talk movies, talk video games, talk life.
Yeah, it's fucking awesome. And
I love conventions, man, because I get into the weirdest situations. I run into creators, end up hanging out with them for a little bit. We did a live show once, me and you, at MegaCon.
Yes, we did.
And people just came over, and I asked them because the guy came over like a 12-pack of beer, and he gave us a bunch of beer. So things just
happen, man.
Things happen at conventions, man. It's the coolest experience.
But you got to put yourself in those positions too, because if you go to the con and you stay in the vendors area, you're really not going to get a full, I think, con experience. Go out at night if you can. Certainly, that point is past. I'm past that point now for the most part. But go out if you can. Check the local bars. Check the hotel, the convention hotel bar. There's a good chance you're going to find one of your favorite creators there hanging out with another favorite creator there.
And be personable. Like, even when you meet them in line, some people I know, I get it. You're not, you get, starstruck, or you're just not an outgoing person. But if you try to be outgoing and talk to them and strike up a conversation, 9 times out of 10, you're going to just end up being buddies for 5 to 10 minutes, Yeah. Even though Lee's talking about his interaction with Stan Lee sucked. He was so out of it.
Oh, damn.
He literally didn't seem to know where he was. That had to have been towards the end of everything. Even I guess Larry's Library was talking about the same thing. Yeah. I had a grumpy interaction with Peter David, but he had an empty line and was FaceTiming with a buddy on his iPad. So I'm sure he had a horribly slow day. Dude, last time I saw Peter David was at Las Vegas Con last year.
Mm-hmm.
He did a panel. It was funny because he did this panel, and I forgot where the conversation started, but it ended up leading into how awesome the John Carter movie was. And he said that, and I saw the movie. I know it's awesome, but I looked down the row and I kind of looked ahead of me a little bit, and I could see everybody brought out their phone and they were Googling John Carter of Mars movie. And then after the signing, or after the panel, I went to his booth or his table, and same thing. This is fucking Peter David, and nobody was there.
Yeah,
nobody was there to talk to Peter David. I brought a stack of Hulk and X Factor, and we sat there and chit chatted for a little bit. And it's you got to beat these people, dude.
Yeah.
Back to the John Cassaday side of things. you never know what's going to happen to these guys. Peter Davis has had health issues. I hope for the best. It's going to come for all of us. Spoiler alert, we all die.
Yeah.
But it's really, I don't know if sad's the right word, but it's kind of disheartening when you see like people I consider legends and spectacular creators, no line, and then you see like these big lines for these boots that are selling like foil exclusive nonsense, or whatever.
Yeah.
Say, oh, you want that foil exclusive? You know who wrote that book? That dude right there. Oh, you don't care? All right, well, whatever. I'm gonna go talk to that guy, and I'm gonna talk about comic books, and we're gonna have a good time for a little bit.
Yeah. I think, and I think the thing with cons and with comics in general is that there's very much. I think it's more of maybe a younger thing. It's more of a spur of the moment thing for some of these creators versus a lasting legacy for a lot of them.
Yeah.
And kind of what we're seeing, at least what I've seen now in the last few years, what I've seen, what I've heard is that a lot of these older guys, they're not getting approached as much as the younger guys. And that's not a slight against some of the younger guys, man. I mean, certainly Tom King is doing the work, amazing work and stuff like that. Hickman's doing amazing work and things like that. But, these older
guys. There's going to be a time, though, where I'm going to go to a convention and Tom King's going to have no line. Yeah. And hot new guy over there is going to have this massive line, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to go over to Tom King, but hey, dude, Mr. Miracle was crazy. I can't believe you had suicide in that book. Like,
I think maybe that's just the nature of the beast, right? Maybe that's the nature of the industry as a whole. It's you're the hot new guy for a while or the hot new woman for a while, and it fizzles out after a while.
Well, it also shows that if you're in this long enough as a reader, as a reader like us who like to read, it's not necessarily a collecting thing where it's like, I want this cover or I just want this book. It's a key. It's like, no, we read these books. So when you're in it long enough and you follow these creators and they kind of they taper out or they end up leaving the industry and doing their own thing, there's always going to be that influx of new people, but it's always going to be like, hey, hey, remember when you did this book over here? That was great. Tom King in 30 years. Remember that Wonder Woman book you did in 2024? How awesome was that? Or, things like it's always going to be that situation where when you're in this long enough, it's going to be like, oh, the people that want to see Neil Adams, those guys are like, oh, dude, this is Neil Adams. He did Muhammad Ali versus Superman. Why do they care about Rob Liefeld? This is Neil Adams. That kind of, it's always going to be that kind of replacement and cycle of things as well.
Yeah. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see when we're old and grayer, because geez, I'm already getting there. When we're old and grayer, how many of these current guys will leave that lasting legacy? Will be up there with the pedestals of like a Frank Miller or a Jack Kirby and things like that.
That's the same thing with Frank Miller. It's like, oh, his art sucks. Look at the stupid, Wolverine cover he did. Same with John Cassaday, right? But it's like, well, I remember, and that's mainly going to be the newer folks, mainly generalizing. But the people who always love Frank Miller don't care that he did a bad cover. It's like, hey, fucking Daredevil, fucking Dark Knight, fucking Sin City. So it's always going to be those people that were there at the time are going to be there later for that time again.
Yeah. His Daredevil work is still fantastic. I mean, go back and look at some of those issues. They're still great. There's tons of great stuff there. Sin City, I would argue, is probably the best thing he's ever drawn. I think Sin City looks incredible and holds up still well today.
So William Lee says, I disagree. It's just about being superstar status. Jim Lee will always have a line. He hasn't done any new work. I can see that, sure. But at the same time, Jim Lee can always have a line because he's still fairly new, right? Late 80s to current. You'll see a long line for Jim Lee, but you won't see a long line for Frank Miller or Neil Adams when he was around. And guess what? Jim Lee is 1000% inspired by Neil Adams and Frank Miller.
Yeah.
So I still think he's still within that generational, kind of Venn diagram. He's still there in that. So we'll see what happens. I'm sure there might be a point where people will be like, oh, Jim Lee is kind of whatever, and Johnny Doolittle over here is a new hotness, and he's gonna have a big massive line. It's going to always be like a repeating effect. We'll see what happens, but yeah, it's like, hey, Donnie Cates used to have big old lines, but I remember when he had no lines. I remember he was at Torpedo, and there was like 2 people there for Donnie Cates, right?
Yeah.
So it's always, it's a part of the progression of things. So we'll see what happens. I will always be there for Jim Lee, but will there always be somebody like me there? I'm sure there's going to be a solid line, but it's not going to be, the 90s image where there was like 7-hour lines for Jim Lee.
I'm still waiting, man. I'm still waiting for that big announcement of Donnie Cates is coming back and he's going to be doing an ongoing, because god damn do I miss his work, man. I'm still waiting for it to happen, especially now that we've got the Ultimates line back. Please, somebody give Donnie Cates an Ultimates title. Oh my god, please. I just, the car accident thing and everything that's been going on with his personal life and everything.
Yeah.
Fuck, man. God damn it.
John Romita had a decent line. That's good to hear. I'm glad to see Johnny, because he's another one where people are like, his art sucks. He is fucking terrible. And it's like, dude, that 9/11 issue of Spider-Man, some of those images are burnt in my mind forever. Mm-hmm. So he's always going to have clout. He's always going to have, enough stake where I'm like, dude, he can do crap all he wants, because he did that 9/11 Spider-Man issue. He did those Daredevil issues. Yeah. Like he's earned enough credit for me.
Yeah.
And at the same time, he's still doing work. Like he's still doing Spider-Man stuff. He's still pumping out pages. I'm still fairly, relevant, but he's still doing work today.
I've never been the biggest fan of John Romita Jr.'s art. I love this Daredevil stuff, certainly, but for whatever reason, his art has just never done it for me. I prefer Senior. Senior's another one. Didn't we lose Senior? Was it last year?
It was within the last couple of years, yeah.
Right? That's another one that's gone, man. And I'm kind of curious how many of these guys from today will, like I said, will be remembered in the same vein of a Jack Kirby or John Romita Sr. as far as their art and stuff like that. I think when the curtain closes, I think Chris Samney will be one of those guys up there that a lot of people will look back and go, God damn, especially for that Daredevil run. For better or worse, Charlie Adler from Walking Dead. Walking Dead was a seminal work, and it was a huge moment in comics. I don't know what Charlie's doing now, though, but
probably doesn't do anything. He's probably living it up.
He's collecting that Walking Dead check, I'm sure.
I think he's done some recent work on something recently, but you're not going to see him do like 80 issues of a run again, probably.
No, because they don't need to. They don't need to. Capullo right now, I don't think he hasn't had an straight ongoing of something like Batman.
No, but he's doing Wolverine, this Wolverine book with Hickman, though.
Is it good? I need to read it.
It's good, but it's not quite. I had higher standards for it, with it being Hickman and with it being Capullo, But it's the first issue. We'll see what's going on. I don't know. Like, it's completely out of continuity, so who knows how that's going to matter or affect or even care about in the grand scheme of things with the story.
So before we get out of here, because we're kind of hitting the hour mark, you had mentioned you wanted to talk about Ultimate Spider-Man real quick, or
you're behind, right? You said that. What's the last issue that you read?
6.
What about Ultimates? Have you been reading Ultimates yet?
I read issue 1. Okay. How many issues of Ultimates?
3's out. 4? Is it 4? Fuck, I think it's 4. 4 is a massive issue, dude. 4 is a massive issue of Ultimates. I'll
download it tonight.
Dude, I would swear it was written by Jonathan Hickman. Mm-hmm. Just in the style it's told. You read Manhattan Projects, right?
Yes.
You know how it's kind of like a panel. It would be like 3 or 4 panels, right? Like long panels, but each panel was like a different moment in time.
Oh God, yeah. God, I love Manhattan Projects.
Yeah. Issue 4 of Ultimates is like that, where it's like this panel is this time period, this panel is another time period, this panel is this other time period, and it's all following Reed Richards / Dr. Doom.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna check that out. Yeah, I'll add it to my download list, and I need to play catch up because I think I'm 2 issues behind on Spider-Man. If I'm not mistaken. I think there's 7 and 8 have maybe have already come out. I think.
Yeah, eight's out. So yeah, 7, 8.
Okay, so
I read 6, 7, 8 over sometime last week or whenever it was.
Right.
It's 6 and 7 is still like it's Hickman. Okay, so we're kind of in that like flat period of the story that Hickman does. Where it's all like build up. Like sooner or later this stuff is going to matter big time, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's a lot of that. It's Peter. Okay, and I don't want to give spoilers to people who haven't read it yet, because I know the trade paperback just came out this week.
Right.
It's Peter, and you read it, so you'll understand if I'm vague with it. Peter and his friend, the other guy, star of the book right now.
Yeah.
Them collaborating, discovering more about what's going on, and then Iron Lad pops in, and you're like, oh shit. So download and read that stuff too, dude.
I'm gonna play catch up this weekend. There's a lot of stuff I'm going to catch up on. So, but where can people in our fine chat pick up the first volume of Ultimate Spider-Man by Jonathan Hickman?
Ultimate Spider-Man by Jonathan Hickman is at InStockTrades.com. Everybody, again, that's the #1 spot. Like, if you're new to the hobby and you're watching this on the rewind, or if you're in the chat just kind of looking around being a cool guy, and you want to know where you can get affordable collected editions with everything going on these days, economy-wise, inflation-wise, and you want to pinch some pennies and tighten your belt a little bit, do it at InStockTrades.com, because there you're going to find deals of 30 to 50, sometimes a little bit more % off your books. Again, Ultimate Spider-Man. Let me share the screen because I have it pulled up here. Let's see where they're at with the discounts on that bad boy. To kind of ties this up a little bit more. Ultimate Spider-Man by Hickman is 46% off. 46% off. $20 trade paperback. Get that for $10.79 in stock trades. It's the first 6 issues. Highly recommended. I mean, me and Lou has been talking about that book since day one that it came out.
My book
you get that, not just that, but you can get all your collected edition needs, omnibuses, hardcovers, epic collections, manga at steep discounts. $50 get you free shipping in the United States. $50 gift card that we give out once a month to In-Stock Trades. Awesome customer service, best packaging. Check out In-Stock Trades if you haven't before. You get a 2% extra discount on a loyalty order. So you make one order, your next order, enjoy an extra 2% off. So hit up InStockTrades.com, everybody. Whoa, there we go. All right, Lou.
Yeah, man.
I'm glad we got a chance to say our farewells and our love and appreciation for John Cassaday. Let's go ahead and we're going to call this a night.
Yeah, I'm going to bed. I'm going to bed.
I'm going to go to bed with Lou too.
All right. I'll see you in, sweetie. Good night, everyone.